people in the back stood, and the judge stormed out, busted red-handed. He'd been recorded by 4 different independent recorders and people. The people in the back stood and applauded. This is part of the truth of the reality of how our court systems can work. The railroad court, the kangaroo court. When you end up having people having their rights violated, having the Constitution violated. And in some of these cases, they get so extreme where you have federal law and you have national security. And judges demand to be courts of non-record. And you can't get anything done. And you go in there and you make 5 magic motions, and the judge refuses all of them. All of them are motions that should be mandatory. There's just basically no excuse not to accept those kind of motions, because you're in different types of emergency situation, like recovering materials pertaining to national security. You're dealing with verification in many cases, such as in one case, the IRS investigated and says, yes, we investigated it. There was an illegal seizure that occurred. Oh, we need all the documents in the vehicles. The parties were demanding to keep it. They had no right to keep them. There was court proceeding documents. There was tax records. There were copyrights and patent items. So you're talking about a couple of milk crates full of documents that these people don't have a right to. And the IRS agent goes and investigates and says, I got a gun and a badge. I need all those documents because there's tax records there and I need them. And they're saying no. So he goes back to his boss and says, hey, I'm going to arrest these people. They can't do that. I caught them red-handed violating the Constitution. His boss says, oh, no, that's going to make it ugly. Just write a nice letter right here. And we have the tapes. You had a body cam, you got the tapes. That's good enough. You send him a letter, give him a file number if it's needed in court. So when you end up in situations in court and you're showing exact laws, and the judge doesn't want to record them, doesn't want to allow them into record, but he's touched the documents, his fingerprints are on them, and in the very next court appearance, the same judge denies that any of this material ever existed. But you have witnesses that were there and recorded it. They all stand up, we play the recordings. Yeah, there you were. And there's the judge, busted, red-handed, 4 independent recordings showing him basically lying, and it's blatantly obvious. And people stand up and applaud who have cases there. And the judge is furious. He stands up. The court's not adjourned. He just stands up and storms out, screaming, no one shall interpret me, my actions, or the court. The guy committed treason. The judge committed treason. Failure to protect national security. These type of areas, these type of items, there's no excuse. And when you have people that are basically caught at man-made disasters, you're basically excused, because if you can't afford to pay for any kind of taxes because of a man-made disaster, their insurance company becomes the carrier. With COVID, the state of California became the carrier. They're your insurance carrier. This is by law, because whoever's responsible for the man-made disaster, the actions and words of a man, a person, a woman, whatever, man-made, they're responsible. That's federal law. So you hold a copy and you show it to the judge, and the judge doesn't want to deal with it. It's right there. Let's compare what your books say. The judge does not want to follow the law. There's many cases, there's like 170 cases where recordings were utilized, where in conjunction with attorneys and Mine Guard Archive, people basically recorded judges, bad judges, lying and getting recorded lying. This is the important thing about archives, especially when some of these people were ex-law enforcement. Some of them were writers, so their personal material. Some of them were working on scientific design. Some of them were even classified. So we literally have judges violating national security. And there's no excuse whatsoever for courts of non-record. None ever whatsoever. There's really no excuse. Except, save maybe one item, if we just had a nuclear war and you got people going crazy on you and you're like, we don't have recorders, they don't work. And it's like, well, we got 9 people that witnessed this person cut these people's throat and take their stuff. Okay, well, that's it. We're just going to have to administer justice in the field because we're stuck with that and we have to restore law and order. Other than that. But so the amazing thing about some of the stuff that my archive, the omnibus factor of my archive will deal with things if they're appropriate. And that's if we have funding. But most of the time that the stuff is done in conjunction with attorneys. The attorneys say, yeah, you catch these people committing a felony, you can start recording it. That's the way it goes. So we have to do things like protect national security. You see, no judge can say that his interpretation of the law is above the law and demand incompetence, demand that we don't record certain things because he wants to railroad somebody. That's not a reason. National security is involved, but the wrong way, right? The right way, the wrong. What's the wrong way, right way? We're talking about people trying to protect national security, and the judge does not want to protect national security. That means the judge can be charged with including treason. So right now we have article violations in California. We have more than 400 judges that are going to be removed. They were appointed by Newsom. They're going to be removed. And here's the thing. The way the Constitution and articles read, these parties are not only just disqualified, they lose everything. They lose their retirement. So this is going to recover money for the state of California. This is why my campaign has the evidence. And a lot of it's proprietary to my campaign, but I have the evidence, see. And the evidence is massive. I was sitting there trying to work it. There's nowhere less than 3 million charges. And many of these people are going to be facing overlapping death penalty charges if you don't attack archives. Our forefathers, the original understanding is if you attack an archive, we reserve the right to deal with you, and there's no place to hide. We reserve the right to go any place in the world and get you. That's if you attack archives. There's a couple other things that are in there. You can research them yourself, but it's very important to understand these are original items in that category of things that are never supposed to be removed from the books. And there's reasons for it. We might go arrest somebody someplace else and drag them back to justice. Then again, we do not rule out the possibility that we might have to take actions in the field someplace. Which means, if you were to destroy or steal the Constitution of the United States, there's no place in the world that you could hide. And if we couldn't drag you back, you'd probably end up dead. We're good for this if that's what we decide to do. That's part of what keeps us strong. We'd much rather haul you back in, put you on trial. Because the thing is, we're a very forgiving people. Little things, for the most part, we believe in second chance. We actually do believe in second chance. But there are people who've abused that. And we're seeing this happening all the time. We're seeing these massive fraud things. in levels where they should never occur. Never occur. So over 4,000 individuals are going to be removed from their jobs, and most of them, because they were appointed by Newsom, most of them will lose their retirement. That's a whole lot of retirement funds to recover. So, there's going to be monies recovered. The state of California is more than $6 billion. So these things will happen, And when you have things like everything's recorded in full 3D SAR satellite, and you just have these people wanting to deny things and they don't want to get involved in cases, there's no excuse for that. We have a hierarchical system, a regime in California that literally denies logical resources to basically law enforcement. Terrorist attack at a building. What happens? The state doesn't spring and say, yeah, let's do some SAR. Let's check the time and date. Hey, we look at all these security tapes. We know exactly when they left the building right here. Great. We got a location. We got a time. That's a starting place. Let's go over the satellites. Let's go over the satellites. Let's see where those people went. See, with me, I have a no escape policy. There's no reason to hire up 3,000 law enforcement people to figure out something that we can figure out in 4 to 6 hours, respective to, a few terrorists or 5 or 6 terrorists that we can promptly locate that just committed mass murder. So that's my policy. So I'm going to be upgrading certain things in law enforcement. Now if somebody turns around and says, gee, can you sponsor a bill so we can go track down people that smoked a joint? I don't think I would slap you, but I think you get the idea of the logic there. When you're talking mass murder, you're even talking, we found 2-3 people dead in this building. Oh, well, let's use the satellite, use the recompute on that. Let's figure out where these murderers went. So I just want to lay that out for you. Michael Crosby, I'm running for governor, and I'm a continuous candidate running for governor. And technically, at least the last 3 elections are invalid in California. This current election, by the way, it's also invalid. It's invalid because we have people who have trapped citizens in algorithmic isolation. That's electronic kidnapping, and they're forcing false narratives on people. We need questionnaires. We need four emergency elections, one every 90 days. We need people to answer those questions. Does the government owe you money? Has the government defrauded you? Has the government got government employees that should be prosecuted that you're the victim of? There's a long list of things here that we really need to go through and deal with. We give disclosure. This is what we know. Can you help us fill in the gaps here, people? Help us fill in the gaps, because we need those questionnaires. We need those 4 emergency elections, because we need to restore the current election, because it's not valid. There's too many false narratives running around, and we have too many things we have to deal with. We have other candidates that are actually standing up and blatantly conspiring and violating federal law. The immigration stuff, hey, that's federal law. These are tactical table numbers. Our forefathers weren't dummies. They did tactical tables. They looked at numbers. You have integrity percentages that are required to keep voting at a purity level, to guarantee that we still have a republic, to protect the Constitution. We can't have a bunch of people flooding in the country and then lie and say, yes, we're loyal to the Constitution, and then you find out they're Marxist and they're diabolically opposed, or they're communist or socialist and diabolically opposed. So, that's the thing, is we have colonial constitutional capitalism. That's what the Constitution endorses. We have a republic. We did this in order to promote our own financial wellness, which has not been working out. We're supposed to have unlimited access to the Treasury for the exclusive purpose of building hard assets. That means basically there's no reason that you shouldn't have at least some work each year. We'll back you building one house. Your labor, you can do it. Some people, I got a disability. Do you have half enough of a brain to get people to help you to do it? If not, we can probably work this out. So I'll make it happen. I'll make this all happen. As far as I'm concerned, we've got a whole lot of candidates here. We don't have a legitimate election. So I'm going to stand up and say about some of you people that are thinking about withdrawing from the election, and some of you that may have withdrawn from the election. No, I'm not convinced. I'm not sold based upon that, because we have people trapped in false narratives. We need to straighten this out before we can have fair elections. I'm already going to be putting top parties on the panel and some of the boards. In fact, there's a few people I think that have dropped already that I wanted to put on the boards to deal with certain issues, because I heard good ideas coming from small candidates on specific types of things to do respective to homelessness and whatnot. I want to put some of these people on the boards. We have to repair California. We've got to do it. And this is why protecting the Constitution means we have to stand up with people. You have to stand up with me and say, no, you guys violated the state regime, violated the articles of the United States. They're disqualified. I'm the emergency governor. We have to protect the Constitution. And immediately I'm saying, well, we're putting questionnaires straight on the ballot. We need better numbers. We need better statistics. I want to know, did the government screw you? And an estimate. Here's another section. How much money do they owe you? What do you estimate? Because there's a whole lot of people. There's more than $300 billion in damage done to people because they jacked them out of their old cars. They pressured them to get rid of their old cars and called them junk, but they're ascending assets. They always were ascending assets. So they're lying long term. 45 years of madness, actually over 50 years of madness in many ways. But surely we've got that 35 to 45 years. They started discriminating against people. Then they pulled a bunch of scams respective to emissions. So people, so if you get bored, you get the first part of this, yeah, go on. I understand a lot of people are going through life. They don't have a lot of time, but I'm telling you, the way to do this is my way. I spent too many decades doing research, laying this out, engineering this to build this, to get this massive constitutional AI system to be able to get it in motion. I have nothing but a bunch of commies and socis and Marxies that want to destroy national security and attack archives. This is not a game. These people are committing treason, and it's actionable. It's actionable. Frankly, under federal law, I think I could get a conviction of 2, maybe 3 Democrats that are running for office right now. They're blatantly, publicly in violation of federal law, of national security tactical table minimum mathematical formulas. We can never divert from these. So, well, I hope that you found something interesting here, and I like to be upfront about, we need to get on board and get all this going, because I'm the guy that's going to guarantee that if your lineage goes back 75 years or more, you're going to be in either group 1 or 2. As governor, I am going to declare an emergency. I'm going to get you your vested land stock rights. That's 10 million and 80 million. And I've got a whole plan designed to get people worth over $4 billion in software in less than 5 years. And we become investors. That stock is leverage. We're all a group. We do group leverage and investments into technology. When you have kids, your kids get fresh stock printed because their lineage is already connected. You already paid for it. Your grandparents, greats, they paid for it with blood and everything else. These newcomers, they're not vested yet. If they're even here, they may not be here. They may not even going to be staying here. But let's straighten out all the vested people first. Let's get that compensation going. Let's get that 140+% work factor. Unemployment, negative 140%. I'm not kidding. We can hook you up. We can put people back into building assets like never seen before. I've got the plan. Michael Crosby for governor, California. Oh yeah, by the little thing. Yeah, they cheated in a couple last elections. That means I'm the governor. I'm not joking, and this is not a game. So people, I need you to pay attention, pass the word. You got to get ready to stand up, because I'm removing over 4,000 people that are not supposed to be in office. And among them, 3 California Supreme Court judges. They were appointed by Newsom. And they have no right to sit over certain cases, that's for sure. But, the law is the law. The Constitution is the Constitution. Very simple. Newsom and his attacked a candidate, my campaign, my archives. They violated national security. They're gone. They can never run for office. They can never hold office. They're never going to be able to vote ever again. So people, if you believe something, because some of you got an inkling about it, I have the evidence. I've had people shooting at me. Okay, I have the evidence. I've had people shooting at me. Okay, it's important for people to stand up and and be ready. I need some people to help. This is not a game. I need people to help with this. This is the one time, the maximum chance to do something, to get leverage back into control over California. But I got to stay alive. I have to stay alive. I need to keep protecting the evidence. There's a lot of bad players. And yeah, there's over 200 judges, actually over probably about 400, but there's 200 judges I've been looking at so far. They're gone. They were appointed by Newsom. They're gone. It's the Constitution of the United States. It's the articles, violation articles. It's the rules. They not only, because they're connected to people that have attacked my campaign and my archives and violated national security. These people are not allowed to do some of the things that they're doing. So the good judges are going to be left intact. Let's do this, people. Let's do this.